Hi guys, it's Connie here from Say It With Simplicity. Today I'm going to be sharing a tag that I created using Graphics Fairy images and my Silhouette Cameo. And I'm zooming in here to share how I used a little bit of glitter, a little bit of layering, and I even used an embossing folder on that sheet music background. I'll be taking you through the process in Silhouette Studio of how I made my tag cut file, how I cropped my image to that tag cut file, as well as cutting and cropping the other images in Silhouette Studio. I'll also be setting up registration marks and cutting this with my Cameo, and completing the entire process of how I put this tag together. So I hope you'll join me here on Say It With Simplicity. So here I am in Silhouette Studio, and I'm going to just go ahead and open up the setup panel. I want to just make sure that my settings are right, and I have my machine Cameo, my cutting mat auto Cameo, and I have the letter size checked. That's going to give me that 8.5 by 11 that I'm going to be printing on my cardstock. And so everything looks good there, and I'm going to close that out. So now I want to go to File, Merge. If I go to File, Open, it will open in a new window. If I go to File, Merge, it will open in the window that I'm currently on. And so I'm going to select Merge. And I have my images that I want to select for this in a folder. Have them open in quick access here, and I'm going to select my Walking Santa postcard, and I'm going to go to Merge again, and I'm going to select just the image of the Santa. And you can see that he's a little bit bigger than the postcard image, and we'll be taking care of that in a little bit. But let's just set them off to the side, and I have one more image that I'm going to get. I'm going to go to File, Merge, and let's see. I have this vintage Christmas sheet music, and we're going to be using that for our project as well. Okay, so the next thing I want to do is I want to create a tag cut file. And we're going to do that by grabbing the rounded rectangle. And I have my one that I made for the project that I am sharing here. And I just kind of wanted to pattern it after that. So I'm just going to bring it on here so that you can see it. And let's go ahead and start building. And now with the rounded rectangle, you have these little handles that you can drag. And I'm just trying to recreate it about the same as I did before. This is 2.75, so let's go ahead and make that 2.75. And that's going to give me the same width. And now I'm going to, I could either clone this or I could just grab another one. So let's just grab another one here. And when you get to something you like, you can leave it at that. And I'm going to create a circle by holding down my Shift key and dragging out the circle. And I can add that to my project as well. So now I have my three shapes. I want to mouse over all of them and align them in the center. Okay. And I do use a mouse. I don't know if some of you, how you work in Silhouette Studio. I do like to have a scroll wheel mouse rather than working on my keyboard mouse. I think it works a lot better for me, and so I do use a mouse. And then I can click on Weld. And if I like that, I can keep it. Otherwise, I can go back here and undo. And I might make this a little bit wider and bring it down just slightly. And I like that a little bit better. And my other tag is 4.5. And so now I have my tag shape made. So now I want to add my Christmas tree music to it. And I'm going to resize it. And I just sort of had the word Christmas up there at the top. Okay, so you can see now that the Christmas tree music is behind the tag cut file that I made. But if you're not sure, you can send it to the back. And we're going to go to, we're going to select all of these. And we're going to go to Object, Modify, Crop. And that's going to crop that music to that tag cut file. And now when you print this out, you'll have cut lines for it when you do your print and cut. Now I don't have the hole at the top of my tag, so let's go up here and we're going to hold down the Shift key, create the circle. I'm going to lock this and I'm going to go to 0.20. That seems to work pretty good for me when I'm making tags, so I'm just going to sort of line it up here and center it and go to Object, Modify, Subtract. Now, one of the things that some people get really confused about with Silhouette Studio is that there's so many things around the outside here. There is a Modify panel here. So let's go back. We have the circle on top of the tag, and we can also subtract from that Modify panel that you can find right down here on the right hand side. So let's go subtract, and it does the same thing as it does when you go to the menu option up here, Object, Modify, Subtract. So either way it works. So we have that Modify panel, but you can go up here to the ribbon options and it works the same way. So don't get intimidated by the fact that there's other ways to do things in Silhouette Studio. So it looks like a lot, but a lot of times it's just another way of accessing the functions. So now I have this. I made my tag a little bit darker by going to my image effects panel. I think I'm just going to leave it this way. This printed out a little bit orangey on my printer, so I think I might just leave it this way. But you can see then that you have that hole knocked out at the top, And now we're ready to begin the rest of our project here. So we have our tag cut file done, and we're going to do kind of the same thing that we did with our tag. We're going to do with our Santa. We're going to resize him here. And I'm going to use that rounded rectangle, but let's zoom in here a little bit. And you can line this up wherever you want. And so the background of this image is kind of neat. It's kind of hard to see on here, but it's sort of a seaside village with a church here in the background, and definitely has that little bit of a Scandinavian look to it. And now I'm going to go to, let's do this from the Modify panel. Let's crop. Okay, and so now we have this image that's going to fit on top of our tag. You can resize it a little bit if you want to. And it has a nice solid cut line around it. And let's go to our Santa, because he has a little bit of a different situation going on. Oops, that's not exactly what I wanted to do. I want to size this Santa so that it's the same size as the one that's on my tag for that little overlay. Let's bring him to the front. And he's carrying bells and a pocket full of things here. I'm just going to sort of lay him over the other image. And this doesn't have to be perfect, but I think I have it pretty good. So now when you click on this image, you can see that you have 4 points. That's because this is a rectangle. So what I want to do, because this is a PNG inside of a rectangle, you only see this outline, but I want to trace that. And so I'm going to select my trace area. And I'm going to bump up the threshold here. And I'm going to click Trace. And let's go ahead and release the compound path, because there's a little detail inside of that I want to get rid of. And now I can go back over this, and I don't want this one in that. I want to make this a compound path. Okay, so now I'm going to line my Santa back up to, and try centering it. And so when I center it, then I have my outline around my Santa image that's in the PNG rectangle, and I'm going to send this PNG rectangle image to the back. So remember, I have that those 4 points there. That's how I can tell that that's a PNG transparent background. And now I'm going to select all of this. I have that outline, and I'm going to go to Object, Modify, Crop. And that just cropped my outline that I made when I traced to this. And you can see when I click on my point editing that I have points all the way around that. And if I go to my Send panel and I click Cut, you can see that I have a nice outline all the way around, and I no longer have that transparent background to worry about. So now I'm all set up. I can start putting together my tag. And I have a page that I already did this with. I was able to get 2 of these at this size onto my sheet of 8.5 by 11 paper. I went to my page setup and I turned on my registration marks. So here they were off, now they're on, and you can kind of play with the inset a little bit. I don't like to get my registration marks too far away. Sometimes you can have a little trouble with the machine picking them up, but this worked out great, like at 0.5. And so now I'm ready to send this to my printer and cut it out on my silhouette. And so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to click on File, Print. Well, let's just change this up a little bit. I want high. And let's click Print. So I'm all ready to send this. And let's go to Send. And you want to make sure that you have the outline around the cut lines around all of your images. And I use the cardstock heavy textured, and the auto blade is on, and this setting has worked well for me, the default setting. So let's go ahead and we're going to send this. And now I have 2 of each of these images all cut out and ready to go and ready to put my tag cut file together. And so you can see, like, around the outside of the Santa you have a little bit of white, and we'll be using some distress inks around the edge of that to make that a little less apparent. But we'll be putting together this image layer over the top of this one, and then of course adding it to our tag. And then we'll also be doing a little bit of embossing on that tag cut file to bring out a little bit of texture. And so I think this is going to be a neat project. Okay, so here I am ready to put this tag together, and I'm just sharing the embossing folder that I used to emboss that sheet music. I'll leave a link to that in the description box below. And I'm kind of old school. I used my Cuttlebug for that, and I just kind of showed that there in the video. But it works. So I used my A plate, I think, and my B plate. That's a little bit of a thicker embossing folder. I bought it from scrapbook.com. I'll leave, like I said, a link to that. And I started out with this antique linen distress ink, And you can kind of see here that it really blends in with the color of the tag, and so I ended up switching to a walnut stain, and that kind of gave it a little bit more of that aged appearance. And I did speed up through quite a bit of this, but I kind of like how the antique walnut stain distress ink made some of those embossed areas pop. So now I'm going back here on my Santa image, and I'm doing the edges of that as well. And I kind of had a little bit of an oops here where I probably should have pounced off a little bit more of the ink, but I'm not really great at the distress inks yet. But it's okay. It gave it kind of a nice aged appearance here. So because the Santa image had a little bit of that white around the edge, I wanted to just kind of darken that a little bit too. And I'm going to be layering that onto the tag when I put it together. And I probably could have done a little bit more with this. Now I'm just going in here with some foam tape. This is a Sizzix product, and I really like this foam tape a lot. It gives it quite a bit of height. So I really love the layering on this tag. I think it turned out really nice. And I'm going in here with this product. It's called Festive Stickles. Stickles has a number of different products. This one has sort of a red, gold, and dark green glitter in it, and I thought that it blended really well with the greens that were in the photo or the image. And I'm just highlighting some of those little green areas. And I had a little that I kind of squeezed out onto the corner of my paper. I didn't want a lot to ooze out in a couple of these areas, and so I just kind of picked them up off the side and then added them with the tip of the bottle. Now I'm going back in again, and I have some silver stickles, and I'm just adding some highlights to the bells. There's some places where it looks like the light is shining on them, and there's some highlights, and so I wanted to just give them a little bit of highlight with this product. And I don't use a lot here. I just want to keep the aged appearance, but add a little bit of sparkle here and there. And then I decided I wanted to go in and add just a little bit to his hat. Maybe it's kind of a frosty morning out here while he's delivering his gifts. And then there's a little bit of a window in the church, like way in the background, so I put just a tiny bit there. And then there's some greenery down in the corner, and I add a little bit of silver to that. And that kind of finishes that up. So now I lost a little bit of footage here, but I grabbed a scrap piece of muslin that I had, and I cut the selvage edge off of it. It had a nice little selvage edge, and I put it through the hole in my tag. And I'm not really great at bows, guys, but this is what I ended up doing with it, and so I think it turned out kind of nice. You could probably even use a little bit of that distress ink and darken up that fabric a little bit, but now I have some string. This is a product that I had in my stash from Stamps of Life, and I just tie a little bit of this around the fabric at the top of the tag. And I had to kind of play with this a little bit to get it to look the way I wanted it to. And there it is, all finished. So let's take a look at our finished tag one more time. If you like this project, I hope that you will check out more of my videos here on YouTube and check out some of the projects on my blog, sayitwithsimplicity.com. Your subscription helps my channel to grow as I create more craft and cutting machine tutorials for you here on Say It With Simplicity. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time. Bye now.